That sadness aside, quick little poll question. You'll see this in the poll. If animals could talk, which one would be the rudest? I have a couple of sample answers in there, but if you think I've got it wrong and there's another one out there who might be ruder, put it in the chat. Absolutely. I want to see what you guys respond to with this. All right, so the who am I? As I said, my name is Rodney Nissen. By day, I am an Atlassian admin. I am not only am I Atlassian community leader, but I'm also Atlassian certified expert. I've worked at companies like Activision Blizzard, VMware in the past. So yeah, but I don't think that's why you're here. I think you're here for my other identity. I am the blogger at the JiraGuy.com, which would make me the Jira Guy. The blog gives you tips, tricks, how-tos to get the most out of your Jira instance. As a creator on the blog, I am a part of the Atlassian Creator Program, and contrary to my get up here, I don't fight crime. I'm sorry to disappoint everyone there. So what are we talking about? As said, Atlassian's tools have unique superpowers. So we're going to talk about that. And we're going to talk about how I used the Atlassian tools for job search, for hunting Pokemon, a new surprise one, kids and other animals. That one is I'm really happy to present. And then we're going to move over to Trello for trip planning and moves. All right, then. So what is the Atlassian superpower? In my mind, the thing that makes the Atlassian tools so much cooler, so much fun to work on above anything else is they're so flexible. I mean, for business tools, I've always told people that the tool should mold to the workflow, not the other way around. Granted, there's always a little bit of give or take here. It's not perfect, nothing ever is, but as far as tools go, Atlassian allows you to adapt it to your workflows, to your processes much more. But that means you don't have to use it for that. You could use it for whatever you could come up with. This is very much a key element here. And I love collecting these kind of unique workflows that are outside the normal business use case. So as I said, who has to mold it to a workflow, a workflow? So moving on here, job search. This one is one of my favorite, absolute all-time favorite uses. For those of you who don't know, I got started on the blog in 2019, August 2019, and my first post was actually this very use case. I was in the middle of job search. I was not having a lot of luck. In fact, I had just come off a terrible day where I thought I had two surefire interviews. They went amazingly. There was a good rapport there. I answered all the questions correctly. I knew I was on fire for those two interviews, and I had been turned down for both positions. And the reason I had been turned down, again, this is pre-pandemic. They were in California. I was in Atlanta. I was not willing to move, and they were not willing to hire remote people. Sucks, but that's the truth. So I'm like, I know Jira. I know Jira. I know Jira better than most people. I want to prove it. So I started doing it. And the first thing I featured was this little project I created to keep track of my job hunt. See, as the job kind of went on and on, this was the project we were going to track here. I was applying to all these jobs and I was not following up because I forget I applied to them or forget the contact information or I was not following up the way I needed to. So I'm like, I'm a Jira admin. Use what I know. I have my own Jira instance. We're going to do a job hunt for it. So this one was a custom one from the ground up. I started with a reuse the task issue type here and then create a custom create form that captured the information I needed. Like, what was this company for? What was the job description? Handy field there, description already in place. Where was this job located? So I didn't have another California. How do I get back a hold of these people? Who was I talking to? What was their contact information? When did I get a hold of them? The kind of key information that lets me know when I need to follow up on it, who I was talking to, all the key details. um, so we got this, and then custom workflow. This one was just quick, following the process from an potential employee's view of going through an interview. Do I have my phone screen done? Am I done with my interview? Do I have the job offer? Have I accepted? I mean, the fact is, the first time I got an issue done, this project became useless. So that last one was very much a celebration step, but it was still important for me to have that last step in there. And then dashboarding. My goal was to apply to at least 3 jobs a day. Make sure I'm keeping that flow going so I could always get people coming in, get job interviews coming in. Not every application is going to result in an interview, but keep it going. So I use this to keep track of when I did it. It wasn't always possible. Sometimes jobs just didn't appear overnight, and I'd exhausted the pool of people I could apply for. So it didn't always work out, but this one allowed me to visualize how quickly I was applying, make sure I was keeping that pressure up, and then keep track of, well, which jobs do I need to follow up on, which ones are showing promise, different dashboards element here to keep track of it. And this is one thing I love because, again, this is not a standard Jira use case, but this is absolutely valid and it worked beautifully for what I needed to. And the real key to it was the Kanban board. I decided to use Kanban over Sprint because this was going to be more of a long-term project, it seemed. But one unique use case I don't see used often enough is the card colors. I wanted the colors to tell me when something was losing contact with or when I should probably just give up on offer because they ghosted me or whatever. So I used these card colors. Green if it was good standing, yellow if I need to maybe try and reach out to them, poke them, prod them, see what's going on, and red when, look, it's been 2 weeks. You're not hearing back from them. And this really helped me keep things organized and consistent in a way that I could visualize what I need to do in a given day to do this job hunt. Well, long story short, about 2 weeks after I did this post, I got not one, but 2 different competing offers. And I ended up going with the one that allowed me to work from home because I don't want to commute to downtown Atlanta. Really did not. So yeah, this is a unique workflow. I love this. This absolutely inspired a lot of what I do just because it's not seen a lot, but it worked beautifully for what it needed to do. So next one, job hunting, that's work. Jira, that's work. Can we have real fun with it? I am a gamer. I am no shame in that. My last job was with a major game studio, so can't have to be a gamer to work there. One of my favorite games, and it has been since I was young, was Pokemon. I literally started on Pokemon Blue back in 1999 in 8th grade. So this is something that I've grown up with. My little brother, since his birth, we've brought him in. He plays. This is a great family builder as far as getting to spend time together. But I was looking at it, and over some years, I haven't been as active. Some of the games are just not as fun as others. But I was looking at what's called Pokemon Home. Now, this is supposed to be your overarching Pokedex across all your games history. Pokemon Go, the console games, whatever. You're supposed to be able to bring them in here and have a central storage location to keep track. And I noticed that out of the 1,000 that is now available, which is still a mind-blowing number to me, I had only caught about 500, and that was being generous. So I'm like, well, how do I catch up? I start looking at it, and I also need to do an article because I am the Jira Guy, and I'm like, well, let's track it in the project. But I'm gonna be happy enough to just do it in a Jira project. I decided as an additional challenge, I'm going to take a Jira Cloud project and I'm going to change it as little as possible and try and reuse the default structures and workflows that Atlassian gives us to try and organize it as a way to understand how these things could be adapted and used. So what did I do? Well, start with generations. If you don't play Pokemon, this term may be a little foreign to you, but generation is basically a single set of releases for Pokemon. The games are released as sets. Think red, blue, yellow, gold, silver, crystal, so on and so forth. Each one of those sets is called a generation, and every time they do a new release, they do these releases set generations increment. That's how we keep track of them within the Pokemon community. So those are my releases. Each generation represents what I need to do, how many Pokemon are left to get, all that. So that allows me to release it, but that's not the only organization level I did. Within the Pokemon Home application, you organize your Pokemon in what are called boxes. This goes back to long traditions to the original games, how they had to organize the data structures within the code of the box or within the code of the cartridge. But it's something they kept up. It's not really necessary anymore, but they do it because it's what people are familiar with. So each box can hold, I believe, 50 Pokemon, if I remember right. No, 30. That's right. 5 by 6. So I organize each box into an epic so I can visualize and just focus on 30 at a time, because a generation can have upwards of 200 in some of the larger ones. So that's a lot to focus in. You're never going to feel like you get anywhere. 30 is a nice manageable chunk. Just take it down. And this is what you do when even large scale projects is you take the project, you break it down, and you get to a manageable chunk. So 30 per epic. Epics can cross generations. So an epic could be a part of multiple releases, but each epic is a box that I can focus on. And then from there, break it down further to the individual stories. These are the Pokemon that I still need to get to add to that Pokedex. So this is this is how I organize things, try and keep it. Now, the downside of how I did this is there was a lot of manual entry to get this done. I think I only did like the first 4 generations I had left, and even then, it was exhausting. Just for the sake of this article, to finish it out would have been probably another 3 days worth of work. So this one is still on the back burner. I'm working on the 3 or 4 generations I've done. And then once I get done with those, I'll worry about populating the rest. But since this article was released, I've talked to some of the other Pokemaniacs in the Atlassian community, and they recommended, hey, maybe you could use some of the API calls and automate some of this, which is brilliant. And in the heat of the moment, I did not think of. So there might be a follow-up coming, just saying. But yeah, this is, again, alternative use for Jira. As I like to say, all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. So what's next? Kids and other animals. Now, I've got a confession. I have a little sister, and as much as I love her, whatever I do, that woman is going to do the opposite. I went into IT. She decided she was going to be a tattoo artist. I moved to the big city. She goes and buys a farm. Any of you who have siblings knows this is just the way it goes sometimes. I still love her, but God, she drives me crazy sometimes. These animals are actually, this is her farm. These are animals off her farm. These are, I won't reveal names or anything because they're not in the public eye the way I am, but it is, and this is actually my brother-in-law and my sister in the photo doing the beekeeping. So my sister came to me a couple of months ago saying, hey, Trey, family name, I've got a problem. I know Jira could be used for project management. That's kind of what I do for my day job, but farm's going a bit off the rails. In order to keep track of bills, tasks, all that, me and my husband, who travels for work, have this spreadsheet. We email back to each other. But that gets messy. And what if we both make a save and overwrite the other changes and all this, and there's no single source of truth? And we know this is a problem. I know there's a better way, and I do think it's Jira. Can you help me? I mean, as I said, I do love my little sister. Pain isn't in the neck as she is. So, 2 problems she had here and what need to be tracked. First off, bills. Farm's expensive. You got to buy feed. You got to buy some new animals sometimes. You've got to buy different products for them to keep them healthy. Not to mention you've got the usual power, gas, electricity, everything you need to keep the farm running. So they needed a better way to keep track of that. They figured they could put that in issue type, be done with it. And they also, as additional challenge, there's a lot of chores to be done. And specifically, my niece and nephew are getting of the age where they could help out. They need a way to keep track of their chores. So 4 people, perfect for a Jira Cloud instance. Um, the thing was the bills. Anyone who knows Jira knows it doesn't do financials well. It doesn't. So part of the process here, well, Jira doesn't do something well, go to the marketplace. For this, and this is still a work in progress, so I don't have the full demo for this particular app ready yet, but I'm looking at Deezer, and I'm looking specifically at Budgety, which is a budget and cost analysis tool for Jira within the tool you're already using. Um, it absolutely solves a problem where people want to be able to go, okay, for what we're doing, how much is it costing us? What's it costing us? How do these track over time? Beautiful for that. So I'm absolutely love working on this. This is going to be part of a review eventually, I think. But in the meantime, it seemed perfect for the bills use case. Now comes the other problem. When you're building an entirely bespoke project for a unique use case like this, it's a lot of work. It can be daunting. So where do you start? Well, I usually go start with the user experience. What's the first thing a user does in a project? Well, they click create and then they select their issue types. So this is the flow I normally use when I'm creating a new project. I'll first create the issue types, figure out what issue types make sense for this. Am I covering all the use cases? Is there anything additional that I would need stuff for? Like, well, I've got that set. I know what issue types I have. Now I need the screens. Because I know what issue types I already have, I'm able to go and individualize screens. Like bills needs a dollar amount. Chores do not. So I go through and I start creating the screens as the next step because when you're creating an issue, that would be the next step. I'm like, well, now that I'm working on screens, I know what fields I need, trickle down to that. So now I have the whole create process done. Now I need to work on the issue. And this is where you start working on the workflow. So this is the process I use when I'm building a project. Start with the top thing the users are going to do and just follow their flow as you flow through it. This gets a bit tedious, it gets a bit drawn out, but it absolutely helps you get through and figure out a ideal project for what it is. However, all this is useless if your users aren't using the project at the end of the day. You could build an entirely bespoke project, but at a certain point, no one's using it. What was that effort worth? So usually I have a step when I finish building and I sit there and look at it. I'll play around with it myself. I create a few issues, like go through the workflows, and the whole thing at time I'm asking, would I use this project in my day to day? I often joke that at least myself as a Jira user, I'm terrible at it. Great Jira admin, I am the world's worst Jira user, and I've heard this from a few other Jira admins as well. I'm not enough to say it's universal, but something about Jira admins, you know? So if I'm not willing to use a project and I know the tool better than anyone, there's something wrong there. So um, that's when I go through and go, okay, why am I not? Why wouldn't I use it? What's bothering me? Is the workflow too simplified? Is it too complex? Am I entering too many things? Go through it as if you're a user and figure out, would you use this project? If not, why? And fix those whys. That I cannot state enough how absolutely key that step is in figuring out what you need to do to make a project absolutely great for these kind of bespoke projects. So yeah, this is a work in progress. This is a project I am creating not only for my family but also for the blog. We will eventually be able to read about this, but you guys being JiraCon attendees, you get a sneak peek. No, I haven't been saving this for a month. Why you ask? So we're going to skip over to Trello. Jira's great. I love Jira. My wife, it reminds her of work. And to be fair, it is a work tool. So we're going to switch over to Trello. These are a couple of projects I've used with my wife for various things, starting with trip planning. Now, the project should be here, tracked here, is very much in quotes because it's a vacation, it's a trip. Um, so what you think about what goes into your trip? You need to figure out where you're going, when you're going, where you're going to stay while you're there, what you're going to eat, what you're going to do. If you have any contacts, are you going to meet them? When are you going to meet them? Going to any events? When are those? All that. There is a lot to keep track of on a trip. And the way me and my wife used to do it is we'd have like a dozen, 2 dozen printouts that we'd stuff in one of our carry-ons. It wasn't ideal, it wasn't working, and if we forgot something, that's it. Hope you can look it up on your phone, otherwise, oh well. Um, so what do we do about this? We start using Trello for our trip organization. First, we go through and go through the days. When are we staying? Um, we have the days we'd be staying in there, and then we'd start organizing where we're going to be staying during that time. Are we going to be changing hotels at any point to be in a slightly different area? What are the restaurants we want to eat at? When are we going to eat at those? And the idea here is this isn't a strict itinerary. The thing about Trello that's beautiful is you can move these things around. Let's say you had, before you left, you had an entire restaurant planned for Friday, but come Friday, that's not what you're feeling. Well, move it to another day. Take it off when it's a vacation. Live spontaneously, but at least have that plan to fall back on if you're like, well, I don't know. Um, so this is how we did it. We've actually done this several ways. We also have just a general list of, hey, these are some things that'd be nice to do. We don't know where we're going to slot them in, but we have them in our back pocket. These are some places that we don't have a plan to eat at yet, but they review nicely. They look good. We're going to keep them in our back pocket. Same with shopping. So between the calendar list and these extra three, we usually had it pretty well covered. Another tip to make this work is really use your labels. Like, let's say you have an appointment to go on a tour. This is especially prevalent towards the end of the COVID period when there's only so many people they let in, so you'd have a time slot. Well, we'd have a label for that, label in red, time locked, put in the due date as when we'd have to be there. And we know that one, unlike some of the other things that we can move around, that one cannot be moved around. It has to be on this date, it has to be at this time. Restaurants, we'd have those all labeled. So if we didn't want that Italian using that previous example, you move that to another day and we can move whatever we had on that we were feeling to today. But because they were all labeled, we could see all that on the main screen and just move things around quickly. Same with things to do, same with shopping. Absolutely use your labels. They're an amazing tool within Trello, and you could use them to keep track of a lot of information. The other thing that Trello is great for is you could add attachments. This means you could add like the tickets for that ghost tour you're going on, or you need information about where to meet someone. You could attach that to the ticket as well, or to the different items within Trello, and have that in the same place. You're looking, well, we know where to go, we know what to go, and we have all the details inside there. This is great. I really wish it had some ability to download this offline. This was pulling stuff online, which some areas, if you have spotty reception, is a little iffy, but for the places we've done this with, it's worked pretty well for us. And I brought this up about the time lock before, but the thing about Trello is you could also set alarms, so it actually notifies you for different things. So let's say you have to be at a particular event at a certain time. Well, you know it's going to take you 2 hours to get there. You could set an alarm for 2 hours before and go, oh, I need to start leaving for this carriage tour, for example. This absolutely made these trips amazing because it was one less thing we had to worry about. We no longer had this stack of papers telling us all this information. We had it all shared between our mobile devices. If one of us made a change, the other could see it. So, again, single source truth, Trello, It's not as much of a work tool as Jira is, but it is still a professional business tool. Some way you can use it for not work. I believe Brittany has talked about stealing this at some point, so a little bit point of pride for me. But that's not the only thing you do with Trello and trip planning. I am notorious about forgetting things. Cannot remember, hey, maybe you should pack a comb. I have literally left home without a comb for various trips. So, yeah, I started putting together this packing list some point ago with all the things I know I need for a given trip. Now, the master one that I copy from is anything I could possibly need on any trip. And what I'll do is I'll make a copy of the entire board with all the different tickets on there with all the different lists, and then I'll customize it for that particular trip. This one was customized for Team 23. Um, and I go through, and then I could go through. I know what I need to pack. I know what's nice to pack. I know what I'm not packing for a particular trip. I could go through, organize it, figure out where I'm putting different things, and make sure I have everything. Um, so absolutely love this. It's a little bit of bonus use, but it's been amazing. And again, it's reusable because I could use the same list to make sure I'm not forgetting anything when I go to head back home. So the last use, for those who may not know me, I actually moved about a year and a half ago to a new house in the same area. Moving is stressful. Moving, there's a lot of things to keep track of. Again, similar theme. It's a project. There's a lot of details. How do you keep track of them? So I came up with this Trello board when me and my wife were facing these same issues, and used this to keep track of everything. So when come move day, everything that was in our power to control was taken care of. There was only one hiccup. The movers didn't record the right day I told them to, so they all of a sudden were going to show up 2 days later when they forgot they were going to move us. That was a bit of a hiccup. That was unfortunate, but we bought an air mattress and we camped out. So, what are the different parts of this board? The first part was a basic to-do list. To do in progress done, try and figure out what we need to do, who we need to talk to, get stuff done, make sure that everything was taken care of. And a lot of this was setting up the utilities. Now, some of these utilities could not be set up until like the day of because we need to have the bill of sale on the house. But still, a lot of it could be taken care of in advance, and we knew it, and we had the details tracked within Trello on the board about these different details. So this ended up being a great boon as far as keeping track. This could be done in Jira too, but again, my wife doesn't like Jira, so we did it in Trello. And back to that single source of truth. We had new questions. This was a new house. We had seen it like once or twice before putting the offer in, but between then and the time we purchased it, it had been a while. And we built up a lot of questions like, where are we going to feed the cats? Where is the cat litter going to go? What are the measurements for the different rooms? Where are the smoke detectors? My wife does fire alarms for a local government for a living, so knowing we had working fire alarms and they were properly installed was a big deal to her. What kind of dryer connection do we have? Do we need a new dryer? How many locks do we need? All these details that we ended up gathering. And this lets us, every time we thought of a new question, we're like, oh, we'll put it down. Next time we're at the house, we'll get that answered. Movers. We knew we could afford the move, but we want to be sure we're still getting the best value for our dollar. So calling around to different movers, figure out what were the different prices, what were the different packages, how much it would be, all that. So yeah, using that to keep track of different elements and for different things where we could have maybe done more bidding or more research, you could expand this out. This isn't only for movers. This is just the only place we needed it. And then kind of the last section is we knew we were upgrading a fair bit when we were going to need a new fridge for a new house. We were going to need some new living room furniture. I want a new cable modem because we're switching from fiber to cable. Unfortunately, I'm still not happy about that. Different things we knew we need, so we figured we'd go ahead and get a list set up for what we have, what we want, and start making sure as we got different things, we accounted for it so we didn't double purchase. So absolutely love this use case. Um, this made the move as smooth as it could have been. I said there were hiccups. There's going to be. It's like a migration. If things go perfectly, you've done something wrong. But they were manageable because all the major things had already been taken care of. So those are just a few examples of how to use these tools in unique ways. This is just scratching the surface. I have done many more. I've been told about many more uses for these tools. I've used it to keep track of a tabletop RPG world. As you see Confluence back there, I've seen people use it to keep track of animal shelters and animals within those animal shelters. Do they have their vaccines? Do they have their medicines? Are they being adopted? Are they in quarantine? Absolutely brilliant use case by MetaInf there. I've seen someone tell me how they're using it to manage a family, or using Jira to manage a family library, and they're even accessing it on their ebook. There is a lot of unique use cases within these tools. Now, bringing out this potential and setting up these unique use cases, it's not always an easy journey. You have to put a lot of thought and intention and creativity into these things to be able to get them set up for this use case. Jira, Confluence, Trello by default have a very specific use case in mind, and all the default examples are around that use case. So if you want to do something different with it, you got to be prepared to put in the effort. You got to be prepared to put in the work and the time to get it to where it needs to be. With that being said, absolutely, Jira Cloud is free for 10 users. You should have a sandbox and you should play around. You should try to figure out what can I do with this. Even if you don't end up using it as an academic exercise, it is a great way to learn the tools and the different ways you could use the tools. So when someone comes at you with, hey, I need Jira to do X, you already have a back pocket full of tricks to give them to solve their problems. And again, I love hearing about these. I know the Elastic community as a whole loves hearing about these unique use cases. Don't be afraid to share it. Post on the Elastic community, post it on LinkedIn, tag me if you need to. But share these use cases because when we all gather together, when we all learn, we can learn from each other. So yeah, absolutely can't wait to hear what you guys do. That being said, if we could get Alex in here, let's answer some questions. For those of you who don't know, this is Alex Ortiz. He is my co-host on the Jira Life. He is also the operator and owner behind Ape Tech Tutorials. Absolutely best place to get content, lasting content on YouTube. If you're not subscribed to him, please go check him out. Subscribe to him. Yeah, he has his 10K, but we need to get into 100K now.
That silver play button, my little 6-year-old keeps waiting for it. All right, just searching through here. From 15 minutes ago, we have a question on how would you represent each service? Would you use components, perhaps?
15 minutes ago, what was this in reference to?
From Danny Harris at, I guess the time's relative. It was at 5:18 p.m. your time. So wherever you were about 10, 15 minutes ago.
Ooh,
And
I
Danny,
think
feel
that
free
was
to.
the farm use. So different services, I'd probably either use labels or honestly, I'd probably have a drop down. Um, but again, this is where you get creative. Those different services for the bills could probably be components. They could be a drop down custom field. They could be labels. It's really up to you. Personally, I don't like using labels for that function because they are freeform, which means you're going to get gas with a capital G, gas with a lower G. gas with two S's because there was a typo that day. I don't really like using labels for those. Those I probably set up as components myself, but um, again, it's up to you when you're developing these. What works best for your customer, for your family, for whatever you're doing for.
Not sure if this is a question, but Craig says, "Love this talk, Ronnie. Thank you. Trello has been incredible at helping organizations, or sorry, Trello has been incredible at helping organizing our weekly food shop and giving us a list of ideas rather than letting us default to our go-to choices. Heavily inspired by a video from Brittany Joyner. We actually got to see a live demo of this a couple of weeks ago.
Yes, if you guys do not know what Craig is talking about, go look up Brittany Joyner's YouTube channel. She has a demo of this thing on there. It is brilliant. She goes through, she has a list of recipes that her and her partner have tried, that they love, they wouldn't mind having again. And then she has a little button on Trello that goes, figure out my food. So go through, you'll pick five from the list, put it on a calendar representation for Monday through Friday. And then I'll go through and figure out, okay, what are the ingredients from those based on what's in Trello, on what's on each of those cards, and generates a shopping list for her based on what is picked out. It is brilliant. It is unique. It is another one of those fun use cases I love collecting. I've done something similar in the past, but I will say Brittany's efforts blew anything I've done out of the water. I absolutely encourage you to check it out.
Yep. I am not seeing any other questions, but feel free to drop them in the chat here. There is a chat and there's a Q&A section, so either or, I'm checking both, so feel free to drop them into either. Rodney, I'm not sure if you want to review your poll, but we do have results from the poll.
We have a Q&A question.
Oh, that just came in here. Hi, Rodney, me again. Sorry, may be unrelated. For non-premium cloud users, what app would you recommend for setting up additional issue hierarchy, epics, initiatives, etc.?
All right,
Love that.
Nadine, we are actually talking about this in the Jira admin room earlier. By the way, if you want to catch me, that's where I'll be later tonight. Um, so absolutely come in there, talk to me, ask questions. Don't mind talking this one. I cannot recommend, and it's going to be an additional cost, so Nadine, be aware of this, but I cannot recommend Structure Enough. It used to be on my naughty list of apps. Back when I started being a Jira admin 10 years ago, it caused some more problems than it fixed. So we actually ended up doing away with it. But since then, they have put a ton of work and a ton of effort into it. And it is absolutely, for this kind of issue hierarchy, my go-to solution. It's not the only solution out there. Another solution, especially if you're a premium or above, is advanced roadmaps. Erica Larson actually just finished doing a talk on this during the last time slot. But my choice has to be Structure, especially if you're non-premium.
And also keep in mind that going to premium will double up your Atlassian bill.
What Alex said.
So Structure, it's got a price, right? That's one thing to at least consider, right? Is what is the price of Structure versus what will be the price of you upgrading your entire org to premium.
So back to our poll question: if animals could talk, what would be the rudest? So far, no one thinks the koala is rude. We have 0% there, and I don't know what you're thinking. They're called drop bears. They're not friendly. Next up is flying fish at 16.7%. I mean, fair. They were kind of a gimme. I probably should have put moose there myself, but did it off flat cuff. Next one is everyone's favorite trash pandas. That'd be the raccoons at 33.3%. I guess I'm gonna agree with that. And everyone agrees that this hyena, or half of you think those hyenas are just the worst animals. So yeah, excellent poll there. I'm actually going to use this in my next talk in a couple of weeks from now. But I saw this question. I'm like, Hmm. If this making me think, I think it would be a fun one. All right.
I think The Lion
Fast
King
forward
ruined a lot of people.
there. All right. So yeah, we'll go ahead and let you out a little early, let you get those bio breaks before we get into the next sessions. If you want to find me, I will be in the Jira admin room after this talk. You could also get my information off Linktree. It has all my links, where you can find the blog, where you can find me on social media, where you could find the podcast. Please go onto YouTube, subscribe to the podcast. That's at the Jira Life with me and Alex. It's been great having you here. Absolutely love it.
Should we mention that we're sticking around for a couple more minutes, or are we dropping too?
We'll stick around for a few more minutes, answer any questions if there's any last minute ones.
New message. Do you know a way of... Boy, hold on, let me move this out of the way. Okay. Do you know of a way to use single portal with multiple custom clients outside of premium and assets?
Hmm. Honestly, Mark, I'm not sure about that one. I'm gonna have to play around and see if I can figure something out there. Off the top of my head, I don't know that, but maybe something come to me as I play around with it. But yeah, I
Is
don't
this with
can't think of
respect to
anything off the top of my head.
Trello?
JSM.
Or JSM? Okay. Do you know of a way to use a single portal with multiple custom clients? Is I thought they can just set up organizations, no?
Through a single portal?
Yeah, because you put your client into an organization, you put the customer into an organization, you can have multiple organizations be in a single portal,
But
no?
your customers are still going to see all the different organizations on the main portal, aren't they?
Guess it depends on what they're trying to what they're trying to ask on that form, no?
Yeah, I mean, this one looks like it's going to be an interesting one. Mark, if you're free afterwards, let's go to the Jira admin room. We could chat. Worst case scenario, we may take a night to take a look at this, and we may get your answer tomorrow at the Jira on the Jira Live.
Yeah, so each customer should not be able to see any other customers. I thought this was a setting though, because there's three radio buttons on the portal setting that allows you to like manipulate if people can search or not search and if they can see people in the same org and whatnot. So might be worth looking at the three radio buttons. I don't have memorized off the top of my head, but that portal setting might have something for you, Mark.
We have one last question from Nadine. How do you get your family to update the status of their task? I'm going to be honest with you, Nadine. If I had an answer to that, I'd be able to be a very successful Jira admin. Because if you could get your family to do it, you could definitely get users to do it. But I don't have a
Nagging
good answer for
automation
you on
rules.
that one. That's the only way I've been able to do is nagging automation rules with users. And when you start doing that to family, it gets a little hostile.
Are there any integrations or plugins that have been particularly innovative in enhancing the functionality of Jira and Trello? Our very own Cass
Mm,
asks.
yeah. Well, again, this is going to be a controversial choice, but I think the configuration manager for Jira, CMJ, that's an AppFire app. It allows you to move not only configuration but projects between instances, and it really was a game changer for a lot of things. Before, if you had to try and move a project between different Jira instances, you're either doing some sort of database hack, which gets messy really fast, or using another tool, or project configurator for Jira. And that one was notoriously slow. I think one point I spent a good 18-hour day moving a large project between two instances within the same company. So it's not like there was even an internet lag there. That was just pure processing the data. So CMJ came on the scene and it was much faster than anything else that was on the market at the time. And it really opened up the idea of project migrations between Jira instances. Um, Back when it came out, this was something only the crazy or desperate did. Now it's somewhat commonplace as a functionality. So I think that'd probably be my one. It's not exactly a recent plugin, but I think it was particularly innovative.
My go-to
Like
still will always be custom chart for Jira.
JXL is an interesting one, Craig. Yeah, you always have those people, and Alex, I know me and you've talked about this on occasion. But you always have those people that no matter what you do, they're going to insist on using Excel. So giving them an Excel-like interface for those people, it's nice. It's definitely unique, but um, I don't think it's one of my favorites.
Yeah. It's a habit that's difficult to shake, Craig says. Yeah. Some people will swear by Excel. I personally witnessed somebody like using the plotter paper from like the good old days, like print out their entire Excel worksheet. I was like, whoa, that's some commitment right there. But yeah, it's like if you ever want to just like, like drive a knife right through my heart or something, like or through my back, whichever side, export data out of Jira into Excel.
Mm,
I just don't understand. Like Jira has live data. Why not? Why leave the tool?
because we learned to use Excel in 1994 and we love it and we don't want to change. I'm stereotyping. That's not always the case. Get people from all age who do it. But at the same time, I don't have a lot of sympathy for the people who insist on using Excel.
I empathize with that. At least using a plugin is a little bit better, right? But like the people that just don't pay for the plugins and they just export out and then they have like these snapshots of data, right? It's just again, you're in this powerful tool that always gives you live updates, and all of
You
a
have
sudden
the single source truth. You whatever you're seeing on there is what the
that's
state currently
yeah.
is
And so you export it out.
into a static file.
Yeah. That has no, well, I guess now Microsoft 365 is a lot better at version control, but still.
But I will give you one case where an Excel sheet can absolutely beat the pants off Jira. Um, Dashboarding. The amount of charts and analysis you could do with a Excel spreadsheet absolutely trumps anything that Jira does
I don't know, man.
without something like custom charts.
Yeah, I was gonna say simple search gadget, part of custom charts, dynamic reports.
Again, without custom charts. Custom charts is cheating and you know it.
It's such a, it changes every single team that uses custom charts or Jira. It's like I have to help them pick up their jaw off the floor.
Mark
Mark
Ellis, I
asks,
think we answered your question without
so what
intending
reporting
to.
would you use? Because it doesn't seem standard. Yeah, custom charts for Jira. Yeah.